So, were people sad
With what?
at West?
They were happy.
They were like, get out of here, Chad.
They're like, who are you?
No, they were not. Aw.
No. No, but it was, the thing is on so I've been kind of going, I guess I just had a really bad cold, and it started on Tuesday to where I even had to go home early, and I was just like, I passed out, and I was just so tired, and so then I was like, I was feeling way better. Like I was able to do midweek stuff on Wednesday, and I was able to do, I still kind of felt a little, throat scratchy and stuff, but I didn't have fever anymore and all that. So I felt like, and then Thursday I was doing good, and then Friday doing good, but then like something Saturday night, I started like my voice started kind of doing weird stuff. I woke up Sunday morning just feeling like, this is like the worst I don't have fever, but like this is the worst I've felt in terms of my throat.
It's because you had to preach.
Yeah, exactly. And I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to talk, because when I said bye to Sable when I was leaving, I was like, bye. I was like, oh boy. But then I went there and I was like worried. I was like, dang it, everyone's going to want to ask me questions. Everyone's going to want to talk to me, and I'm going to be like, I don't want to talk too much. I'm saving my voice for the sermon. But I was fine. In the first service, I was just fine. It didn't bother me in the least. But man, that second service, I was like, my throat, it was weird. It was like the only part where you talk started hurting. And anyways, I made it through.
Well, man, you really soldiered through.
I did. I'm just that tough of a guy. But
yeah.
no, but
what are we going to do without our tough guy, Chad?
Yeah, you're going to fall apart. But no, it was lots of encouraging words and
good.
Always things like that. Yeah. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Next Day podcast.
The next day on your discipleship journey.
I'm Chad.
I'm Christie.
And we're going to be talking about the sermons you got to hear yesterday. So maybe you got to be in traditional. You got to hear Pastor Preston, which I heard was really good. I heard other people just hyping it up. And then you get to hear Christie in the Element, or moi over at West.
That's right.
Moi. But before we get to all that, again, just sharing, y'all probably heard last week, but yeah, I'm going to be moving on to another church, two churches. I think people can't wrap their heads around. People are like,
two churches?
So are you preaching at one church one Sunday and then another church the next Sunday? I'm like, well, wouldn't that be interesting? It's like every other week you have church or something, which is what like old timey used to be like, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they would meet in home groups, right? They would still meet in like old Methodist. They would still meet in home groups often, but they would only have communion once a month.
And they only had a preacher there. I think like other lay people would step up and do things, but.
Yeah, like the Strawbridges and all that. Like if you look up their story, like they did a lot of, as lay people, they did a lot of leadership. And but no. I'll be doing preaching at both campuses. It's just like there's an early service and there's a later service. It'd be almost same as like if West Campus only had an early service, preach there, and then you go over to Kingsland Campus and preach there. So it'd be like that. But I'm doing that 2 towns nearby. And they're used to it. The people there are used to it, and lovely people and all that. But let's do our icebreaker, or should I say ice cream breaker?
Let me guess.
Because, our ministry shout out is going to be all about ice cream, and you'll find out why later. But this is always a common one. If anytime you just randomly ask people what's a good icebreaker, people say, "What's your favorite ice cream?" So, Christie, favorite? I don't know. Let's just say, what's your top 3?
Top 3. That's helpful.
Yeah, top 3. If you're just like, you have 3 scoops of ice cream, or you're going to have 3 trips going to ice cream places, and you want to kind of spread them out. What are your 3?
Oh, that's Okay, it's going to have to be spread out because I feel like to try to think about them all scooped on top of each other, I'm like,
no, that's too, yeah. Because it's like, I want my coffee flavored and my strawberry touching. It's like, no.
Strawberry coffee. Okay, the best ice cream I think I've ever had was, well, there's three. There's three top that
How convenient.
So my number one is that we were in New York City in Soho, and there's this like ice cream truck. It's like Llewellyn or something like that. Something like that. It was a name with an L, and I can't remember how to say it or spell it. But anyways, fancy ice cream.
Lululemon?
No, it was like Llewellyn. I don't know. Anyways, really yummy Earl Grey tea ice cream.
Oh, that's why you're doing Earl Grey.
Yes.
Okay.
It was good because I tried to replicate it.
It sounds like it wouldn't be that great.
I loved it personally because I do love Earl Grey tea. So it was just such a good flavor. My second is from Lick Ice Cream, which is originated in San Antonio. And that is where I had ice cream at the Pearl in San Antonio, and it was goat cheese, thyme, and honey. And it was so unexpectedly delicious.
Goat cheese. Okay, you're just... Anyone listening here is like, what the heck?
I like interesting ice cream flavors.
Yeah.
So I loved that. And then at Handel's Ice Cream here in Katy, one of my favorites. I've
never been there, and people mention it all the time.
It's so good. And I'm not I honestly am not a huge ice cream person, but I have very much increased my ice cream intake because of Handel's. So we go a lot more frequently. But they have this one called Graham Central Station, and it's graham cracker, and it's got like graham cracker like dough in the ice cream, and it is just so good. So
is that the same as Handel's Messiah? Like,
yes,
Handel's
he also,
ice cream?
Little known fact, also made ice cream.
Oh yeah, there you go. All right, well, if you
what
want
about
interesting, like vanilla and chocolate and
yeah.
Let's see. First go-to is definitely Ben and Jerry's Americone Dream. Dream. You could buy it at any grocery store. I don't know. I wonder if it's going to be changing soon because Stephen Colbert is after him.
Oh.
And The Late Show is like his Americone Dream. I think he had it before he was on The Late Show. It's just kind of based after him.
Why would it be changing?
Well, I guess not. Well, his show is ending here soon.
Is it really?
Yeah, The Late Show.
Why?
I don't want to get into that.
Oh, no.
I don't want to get into all that.
Gosh. That's awful.
But it's ending. But I think it's still based off of him. But anyways, Americone Dream, despite that, it's really good because it's caramel like swirled within this vanilla. But then they also have the chunks of chocolate-coated waffle cone within it. And so you're just eating this thing. It's so good. I like it.
Ben and Jerry's is like, dang it.
Yeah.
We got to rebrand this.
Maybe they could probably keep it the same. I don't know. But there's that. And then let's see. And then these two are pretty similar, but I can't seem to think of anything else. But I really like... No. Okay, I'll have another one. So cookies and cream.
Okay.
So any cookies and cream is great to me.
It's a classic.
Like, I mean, it could be Bluebell. It could be another brand or whatever. But cookies and cream. And then and going with that, Howdy Ice Cream has their coffee and cookies and coffee. So it's coffee-flavored ice cream with cookies. And so that's really good. And then the last one is just anytime I could get a... kind of like a frozen yogurt of strawberry. Just strawberry, yeah.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is it's so frustrating to me that you could go and get different fruit-flavored ice creams, and it's just the flavor of it. But if you ever get strawberry ice cream, they always put chunks of strawberry in it.
You don't want the real strawberry?
No, and it throws me off every time I bite into this this squishy, slimy strawberry that's in the ice. I'm like, ew, no, I don't want that. I just want the taste of the fake strawberry. That's all I want. Like, but for some reason, but when you get like frozen yogurt kind of stuff, that soft served, then it's just strawberry and it's just really good. So
love that.
So yeah. So all that good stuff. So we'll talk more about ice cream later, and maybe you could even try Earl Grey tea.
Yes.
Ice cream.
I will be making it.
No. So, but let's get our acts together here.
All right.
Let's get to talking about our sermons. Hey, this is one of the times where we both did a sermon. And
I know.
We could see whose is better.
Yep.
And
it's a challenge.
Yeah. If you're listening, you can vote. Be sure you. But yeah.
Well, what did you preach about? You said so. We talked about this. With some of the other pastors who had preached this Sunday, and talking about how this was like kind of a difficult passage to pull a whole sermon out of. But Chad was like, "What are you guys talking about?" No, it wasn't.
I will say. I did roll my eyes at first when I saw it, because I was just like, golly, where are we getting these? Like, we're basing this off of this? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, I did have that first reaction to it, because, so this is all from, getting our acts together. We're looking at these stories in Acts, and we've been all over the place. It hasn't been any sort of order this is not chronological order in these stories that we've been going through, but just these little moments. And so we looked at Acts chapter 21. Now, what verses did you preach from? You did 4 through 6?
I did 4 through 6.
Or 5 and 6?
I did 4 through 6.
Okay, I did 3 through 6.
So you talked about you. I guess that they had arrived in Tyre.
Because I wanted at least a little bit of just explain that they are traveling.
Right.
And so this is the thing where Paul's already been traveling around, and
this is his third missionary journey.
Yeah, third, right?
Yeah.
Going over, so he's over in the Greece area, and then he's going to be then he feels this call to go back to Jerusalem. And so as he's doing that, they just meet with other followers wherever they're going. And then the people there are kind of like, no, you shouldn't go. And then Paul's like, no, I'm going to go.
Yep.
And so the gist of what I focused on was just the prayer on the beach.
Yep.
The prayer on the beach, the women and children and families gathered with Paul, and they prayed over him. And then they all went their own kind of separate ways. Paul got on the ship along with the other disciples, got on the boat, started sailing off. He's going to go to Jerusalem. Everyone else stayed home. So, yeah, and whenever I first saw that, I was like, really? Like, where'd y'all get this? Who came up with it?
Nobody knows. Nobody remembers who came up with it. It must have been the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I guess so. But then I found it very fitting for the occasion. Because when I started looking at this, and I was like, well, I'm getting ready to go.
That.
I'm getting ready to go somewhere. I'm making this transition and traveling somewhere.
So did they all gather around and pray over you?
On the beach. We went outside into some sand.
You guys drove out to Galveston.
Yeah. No, but and I remember when I shared this. So I had it kind of killed two birds with one stone with this sermon, because I'm doing a class right now, and it's a preaching class. So on Thursday, I had to do a sermon for the class over Zoom, as awkward as that is. And but when I shared the context with them ahead of time, I was like, let me just share some context with y'all. So this is Confirmation Sunday, so I'm going to be talking about that. Because it was Confirmation Sunday at West Campus.
Right.
And then I was like, and also I got a new appointment. So I'm going to be leaving. And so in a way, this is kind of a goodbye sermon in a way, specifically with the West Campus, because I'm not sure when I'll be back out there. And so, and after I did the sermon, people were like, we're so glad you gave us the context, because this made a lot of sense. And so.
Yeah. I didn't think about how cool that was, that it was confirmation, which is also this Sunday where it's like, hey, you're being called, into this, you're accepting this call into the faith, and, saying this is how I'm going to live my life. And you're you're being called up. I'm going to go. Like, you guys got to carry this on. That's kind of a cool, concept. And I didn't realize it makes so much sense, the scripture.
Yeah. And so what I did was the very beginning of the sermon, I brought out some mementos of past churches and past events that I've been a part of that were that people had prayed over me for or had given me stuff, let me know they're praying for me. And then I shared how there was always something coming up next that it was very scary. And like one thing is we have this big old shower block. Imagine like a 1 by 1 foot like shower block, like those big hefty things. They used to give those out to seniors at UM Army on our high school mission trip. And that was just like, it was just like a little keepsake. And
shower block?
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, in the shower?
It's like something people put these in their walls and you can't see through them because it's all like kind of wavy. So it's not like so transparent. Oh, well, anyways, usually when I say shower block, people understand.
I'm just thinking of like you put this in like your shower?
No, you just carry it around. Like you just have it with you. Like I have it on my shelf in there, my bookshelf in my office and all that. So
why is it called a shower block? I'm
because
really
that's
hung
what
up on
they're used
this.
for. That's what they're used for.
For the shower.
Okay, never mind.
I don't know.
You can buy a brick, right? And I could give you a brick as a gift and write something on it. Uh-huh. You don't have to put that brick in a wall for it. Yeah, you could keep that brick and use it however you want.
Oh, so like the glass is like made for a shower, but you just Oh, okay, I see.
I can give you a carpet sample, and you don't have to put it in the floor. You can hang on to that carpet sample.
Okay, all right.
Does that make sense?
Back on track.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. Anyways, I would say, let me show you. This is a podcast. Yes. And some people were like, wait, what?
What does it look like?
Anyways, but that was like a gift that they gave us. Because that was like one of those ideas like, leaving high school is this very scary, exciting but scary kind of uncertain thing of like going off to college. Yeah. I was excited but like worried. But then having that as this reminder that you have this faith community praying with you. Yeah. And so I just stressed throughout the whole sermon, that our faith community reminds us that we are always together. Like we're never, so even Paul, he's doing this thing that he knows he needs to do. He wants to go back to Jerusalem. He knows he needs to go there to really share the love of Christ, even though he probably knows it's not going to go the greatest. Everyone else is telling him it's not going to go that well, but he's like, I really need to do this. And so he doesn't go there alone. He goes there with his faith community, with the love and support backing them. And so that was what the gist of my sermon was this reminder that we are all going to face challenges. We're all going to face tough decisions. We're all going to be doing all these things in life. And it's going to be easy for us to feel alone, but we need to remember that we have the faith community with us. Yeah. We may have to go do something specific alone, like quote unquote alone, but our faith community is there with us in spirit. They are there to pray for us and support us.
Literally in spirit.
Yeah. And like even after you do the tough thing, you could go back to your faith community and they're going to be there to support you. And so that was kind of the gist. And tying that in with confirmation, that, hey, confirmands, you're a part of the church. This is what we do. We do life together. You do life with this church, and they're going to be here to support you during this time. And so, yeah. And so that was kind of the gist of it. I did bring up the story of Malala Yousafzai. She's the advocate for female education and the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 17.
That's amazing.
She was already facing difficult tasks when the Taliban overtook her town, and that pretty much cut female education. Like, they just weren't allowed to go to schools. But then she still kind of resisted by doing blog posts. But then once that word got out and she was starting to get some, popularity, and people were like really catching on to what was going on. I mean, she got brutally attacked. Like, her story is like, she should have died. Like, it was that brutal of an attack. But she ended up surviving. And then what did she do? She goes right back and still fights for advocacy for education for all people, and especially for females. And so,
that's so amazing.
And so she didn't do that alone. even though she was like this, the head figure, the face of it, this movement or whatever, she had the backing of her family and all these people all around the world. Like, and so the same thing is within the church. Like, we can do that. So that's kind of the gist of all of mine. I didn't make it. I try not to make it so much about me and my transition, but I think it was hinted.
To say goodbye.
I think it was hinted in there enough to kind of know. I think people knew. I didn't want to detract from confirmation, really. And so,
that makes sense. That's fair. Oh, that's a tough one to like. It's like it's not about me, but bye, you guys.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. That's always that's hard, but that sounds. I didn't really think about that for your context. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, Christie, what about you? You said you struggled. You said you didn't even do well in this, and you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I always talk about this where like sometimes sermons, you always want it to be like really good. And sometimes you get to a week, especially when you're preaching like all the time, you get to a week and it's like, man, this is feeling like it's not going to be great. And one of my pastor friends says like, sometimes mom feeds the family a sandwich for dinner. And
or for our family, it was like, and we were always excited. Y'all, we're having cereal for dinner.
Yay! Yeah. So I was like, this is going to be a sandwich kind of sermon.
What kind of sandwich? That's good.
I know.
I can
Not
go for a sandwich.
Like 2 pieces of white bread.
Yeah.
Squirt some mayonnaise on
there. That's a UM Army sandwich right there.
But anyway, and of course, like it always goes, it just turned out so much better than I like anticipated. And it's always like when that happens, I'm always like, this is in spite of me. Like the Holy Spirit was working and moving in spite of me and my own work. But the scripture I found to be, it was really like, it's a beautiful passage. Like the 4-6 or whatever, that whole section right there, is really just this beautiful picture of the church coming together. And I know that's why we picked that. The greater context too, though, is that Paul is, traveling to Jerusalem. Part of his like purpose of going to Jerusalem, actually his like biggest point of going to Jerusalem, is to try to like bridge this gap between the Jewish Christians and the Gentile Christians. And he has been, again, like this is his 3rd missionary journey. So he's going back to Jerusalem for multiple reasons. Like for one, it's going to be Pentecost soon. So he wants to get back for Pentecost because that's, one of the Feast of Weeks. That's one of the days that, the Jewish community would gather.
There.
Yeah. And that's coming up for us too on the 24th.
But reading that, yeah. Oh, yeah, that is coming up.
It is.
Hey, this is very fitting.
I know, it's very fitting. So
it's also thinking when I read that, I'm always like, oh, wow, they're already celebrating this event that just happened.
I know, and it's
but
not.
No, Pentecost was already a thing before the tongues of fire.
And this had been many years since that too. But this had, some time had gone by. I don't know about many years, but time had definitely gone by since then. Anyways, like he had also been, going on these other missionary journeys and planting these Gentile churches and had, obviously kept in touch with other churches that he had planted. And the Jerusalem church was in need financially. And so he had been taking up collections throughout his time in other churches to help financially support other churches that needed help, including the church in Jerusalem. And because being in Jerusalem, like there was a lot of oppression there of like the message, it was not as well received as what a lot of these Gentile communities really like openly, accepted and, took on this, this new persona of the church, much more readily than the church in Jerusalem. And so Paul had taken up collections and like was, for one, wanting to take these collections back, not just to financially support the church in Jerusalem, but to also be like, hey, look, all of these Gentile communities are really successful and they're a part of the church. And they even are so much bought in that they're supporting the Jewish convert church in Jerusalem financially and in prayer and in spirit. And so, trying to show this unity of the churches across the board, because that was like, this was one of Paul's big things was like, there is no Jew, there is no Gentile, there is no male, no female. Like, we are one. Like, this was his whole thing. Like, there's not servant, there's not master. Like, we are all one on the same playing field. We are united. It wasn't like this hierarchy of who's who and all of that stuff.
So people liked that, but then other people did not like that.
Yes. So there were some people like...
Because for some people, it's lifting them up. It's like, oh, wow, like I am worthy. Oh, wow. So it's lifting them up. But to other people, they see it as they're being knocked down a peg. Like, wait, why am I equal to that person? Wait, why? And so that's where they started, their pride and all that started getting in the way.
Right, exactly. So like they were not just like upset about it. They're like violent about it, right? So like Paul going back to Jerusalem is a violent mission. Now here's a little tidbit, and this has nothing to do with my sermon, but just to drop this in here, over and over again, people in the different churches are like, Paul, don't go to Jerusalem. And it's worded in different ways. Some of it is like, we've heard that, of what is going to come in Jerusalem. The Spirit has like revealed to us what is going to happen to you in Jerusalem. And, it's not going to be good for you. So don't go. In other ways, it's talked about, and in this passage, they're like, the Spirit had compelled them to tell him like not to go to Jerusalem. Yeah. And so there's a lot of like theological debate around, should Paul have gone? Was Paul acting within the will of God?
Yeah, because that's where this is always tough in life, is that we could say, no, Paul felt the Spirit leading him to Jerusalem. Well, these people said the Spirit was telling him not to. And that's tough in life. That's why it's not so easy just to say, well, God's telling me to do this. But it's like, but you got to look at like, there is some discernment there. You got to make sure it. Yeah, that's tough.
It is tough.
So what were you saying? You're saying some scholars are like, should he have gone? Like, was he being reckless?
Right. Was he acting within the will of God?
Or is he like, I am doing this for me?
Right.
Or
what was the agenda here? And he believed fully, and that's what Acts just kind of shows, is like, he believed he needed to go to Jerusalem. He was like, I know I might die.
I think both can be true, right?
Right. Well, and this is what's interesting, is that like, then we get to the end of Acts. We talked about this last week. Like, how many people on his journey through like going to Jerusalem, and then going to Rome, right? Being imprisoned in Rome for 2 years under house arrest. And then eventually he does die for the sake of the gospel. But like, people during that time heard the message of the gospel of Jesus, and they became believers, and like their lives were transformed, all, in that time of like what some scholars might think was Paul acting outside of the will of God. And I think what you're saying, like, both can be true, is that like, we cannot negate the fact that God works through all things. Do we always act like within, exactly, like, we're not puppets, right? Like, we're not puppets on a string. Are we always like doing things, everything that we are supposed to do? No, like we are sinful people, 100 times a day. We are constantly people that are in need of forgiveness. And yet like, God can work through all of those things. And I think whether this was God's will for Paul, or if it was just like, hey, there's different paths, like either one of them, go on either one of these paths, Paul, I don't know how it all works. Like the way that God's sovereignty, and we've talked about this a lot, right? That God's sovereignty and free will collide at some point, but I have no idea what that gray area looks like in the middle, right? But clearly within the story and within like the rest of Scripture, God worked through all of these things. So anyway, that's just like a interesting little tidbit there.
Yeah, because they're natural for being concerned about that, about his safety.
Right. Because they care.
He's putting himself possibly in harm's way, but you're right. Like when he does go, how many people does he affect? And isn't this during the time, like when he does get in prison, which in prison is what? Like it's like more of a house arrest kind of a
Yes.
thing. So we shouldn't think it's like a dungeon and
No,
all
he
that.
definitely had that kind of situation too.
Oh yeah, he's had that because he was shackled.
Oh yeah,
But
in the dark.
But this time he's kind of more. When he does get arrested, it will be more. I mean, he's still being confined. But that's when he does a lot of his letters.
Right.
Like when he starts writing to the Romans and Colossians and all these other places, and so
Yeah, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, Philemon, those are all definitely his prison epistles, in that time of house arrest. So, it's the time is used very well, but that was just an interesting thing that, you kind of don't, it didn't really fit like what we were talking about within the sermon, essentially, but it is part of the story, and it's something that is much larger than just within that story. You see this all across Acts that in this time that they're just urging him, don't go, don't go. And then he's just like, I'm going. Like, I am just going. And ultimately, like, had God not wanted him to go, like, I mean, when he was trying to go into Asia Minor,
and it said the Spirit wouldn't let him.
The Spirit prevented him.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the Spirit was maybe speaking to him through these churches, but like there was no actual prevention of him going. Like he ended up, the journey was eventually, happened anyway. Well, I had really focused on this story with like talking about the unity. He's trying to go to Jerusalem to create this kind of unity. And what this little passage shows us is the kind of unity that the church really is all about. And it's because of that line, like what you see at the beach, that all the people, the whole community goes out to escort Paul out of the city to catch his boat. And they, it's like the men and the wives and the children. Mm-hmm. And I find it really, purposeful that this passage is left in there with so much detail, because if you look at the verses right before this, it's like he travels through 7 different cities. Yeah,
he's just kind of trapped. Yeah.
And it didn't say anything about that. Like, I know he probably had been there on foot. He probably ate meals. You know what I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But like, I would imagine that like there was things happened within those cities. But Luke wanted to record what happened in Tyre. That was an important thing. So
and we know it's Luke because he says he was there in these passages. It says we came in sight of Cyprus and we sailed to Syria and we landed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's like after chapter 16 maybe that like it's Luke has been picked up. But Acts moves really fast. So like I said, it goes through all these different cities in 3 verses, and it he's always traveling. Paul is like, I compared him to Carmen Sandiego.
Where in the world is Paul Sandiego?
But, and I was like joking. I was like, he's also kind of a fugitive, really. He's running from the law in many, many ways. Just like Carmen Sandiego. They have so much in common.
I don't know. But I do love that they go to Tyre and they unload cargo there. And then it says, we looked up the disciples and stayed there for 7 days.
Yes.
That just is so interesting. That's just so interesting. And that kind of shows you the church then is kind of very niche. Like it's a small, I mean, they're not the majority.
Right.
And so when they go to a town, they're like, well, where are we going to go? Let's go find these other Christians that we know who are here somewhere.
Right.
If we do that today, you go to any town, there's churches everywhere, and it's not,
And they may not be as hospitable.
No.
Hey, can I crash here?
But at that time, I don't know. I find that so, like, lovely that they just go, and it's just like, hey, let's go find our fellow brothers and sisters. And I don't know if I'm sure they knew them somewhat, or maybe they didn't, but they just knew how to find them. I don't know. That's just so interesting.
Yeah. I know. I was joking about the white pages. I'm like, they couldn't have looked him up like that. So what does that look like to look up the Christians that were there? But anyway, so they go and stay with them while they're there. And it's just kind of fascinating to see the way that like they show this radical hospitality to the disciples. And you imagine that like the community for those 7 days, like they get to know each other pretty well.
Yeah.
And then the whole community goes out to say goodbye to Paul and the other disciples and stuff on their way to Jerusalem. And before they go on this like very dangerous mission journey, everybody gathers around and prays. And like
all of them with wives and children escorted us outside the city.
And they like kneel down on the beach.
Everyone.
And so I like that Luke really slows down here and like gives us that detail that they go out onto the beach and they surround him and they kneel down and they pray over Paul and the others. And then they all go on their way. And I just, that's when Acts slows down like that, you know that there's intention.
That is interesting. Yeah, because you're right. Like when you read it like that, oh, then we went here, then we went here, then we went here, then we went to this town, we looked up the Christians. And then we went to the beach, and it's like, I don't know, you do get that sense of that.
And so it's like, you got to ask yourself in those moments, paying attention to the whole picture, why did he slow down like that? Why was this important? And to me, I think that there's many different ways you can take the sermon. And I'm sure like, you and Preston and Carl, we would have all like gone different directions with it. But for me, reading at this particular time, the children really popped out to me. They're not talked about a whole lot in the book of Acts.
Yeah.
But it's like specifically naming that the children were there and the children came out and the children prayed and they were part of this community. And I just started thinking about how like, we've talked about this a lot over the years that like churches, we've developed all of these really intentional programs for children and students to develop their faith. Like we just had confirmation. We just, we have VBS, we have Sunday school, we have all of these, trips and camps and opportunities, not just here at St. Peter's, but like all, like we just see this in the church culture and Christian culture today. Something that the first church probably did not have, like specific children's ministry.
Church.
Right. They didn't have a lot of this going on. And, I think that we have done such a good job of that. But in some ways, I think the church universal has kind of sent this message that children and students belong over here, in the body of Christ and not collectively with the whole body of the church. That it's like, this is where you go and we're all going to do the other like big church stuff. And in this passage, it's like not about that at all. Like the children are brought here and the children mattered. Their presence mattered. Their prayers mattered. They were a part of the whole body of the church. And I think that really stood out to me. And I just, spent a lot of time talking about how important it is for not only for us to be in ministry with children and to serve in children's ministry and stuff like that, but also to invite the children into our work and into our worship because they need to see it modeled like that. Ooh. That is how we, grow disciples is by modeling faithful discipleship. If they don't know what it looks like, if they don't see adults and grownups like, engaging in worship and serving, how do they know what to do when they leave their over here ministry? Do they feel like they're the body of the whole church?
You're going to cause me to get up on my soapbox.
I know. That's why I said we've talked about this over the years.
Anyone who's talked with me long enough about student ministry, this is a big passion of mine, is that because it struck me like a while back, like because I've been doing student ministry for 20 years.
It's a long time.
And I've noticed this, and not only have I learned it at workshops, and I've learned it in my certification classes, and I've read books about this, and this is the most challenging thing about children's and student ministry. Now, I can't say I've served specifically in children's ministry, but I feel like they probably have the same thing. Is there's some easy answers out there for people in the church. And the easy answer is oh, let students have their own worship service. Let students do this.
Which is
let students,
is great.
Students. Oh, how about on Sunday morning? Let them have their own band. Let them have their own thing. That's the like people think that is what it takes to grow in student ministry. And I'm sure there's some churches out there that have examples of that, and I'm sure they find it successful. I'm sure they like it, but is there that disconnect from those students and the rest of their church family?
Right.
And some people think, oh, students don't want to be hanging out with old people. Whether they want to or not, that's not the answer. They need to.
Right.
They need to. Sometimes there's just like, no, they need to be here. They need to be in multi-generational. They need to be connected to the rest of the church.
Yes.
And a lot of smaller churches really get this right because, they may not have a lot of specifics.
Right.
So they're like,
they're under-resourced in some sense for this, right?
Yeah.
So they have to get scrappy, but...
So when I served in Diboll, my first church I served at, small church, what I would call a single-digit student ministry that we had. Like it was like, maybe on a good day we could have up to 12 students, but most of the time we had like 6 to 8. Some of them were siblings, so if one family was out, then we're down to 4.
Right.
Something like that. But here's what I love the most about that small church is every single older person in that church knew the names of those students.
Right.
And they accepted them in the congregation. Mm-hmm. They applauded them when they helped out with stuff. They were just a part of the church.
They were their kids.
Yeah, was them. They knew them, and those students knew them. Those students knew that what they were going through, and they prayed for them. And it was just this beautiful. It was exactly what this beach scene is.
Right.
It wasn't this. Well, they don't want to spend time with this old guy Paul, so y'all just go play over there. It was like, no, y'all know him.
Right.
Do y'all remember when we had that potluck and he sat at your table? Yeah, come over here. Let's go.
Right.
It was like, so that is, but it does get challenging because when you get to larger churches and you get to multiple worship services and like, where do you put Sunday school and where do you do that? It is a challenge.
It is a challenge.
It is a challenge, but it is so important for families to understand because I've had a parent tell me this. I've had a parent say, they were hesitant on bringing their kids to boring church, and they wanted them to go to Sunday school because they just felt like church was going to be too boring for their kids. And I'm like, well, you need to figure that out. Like you need to, we either need to talk about our worship team. Like, hey, apparently everyone thinks this is boring, y'all. Like, what are we going to do? Like, or you need to talk to your kids about what worship actually is. And it's not about entertaining you. It's not about this. It's not, so there just needs to be a way to do it. There needs to be a good balance because,
Right.
So,
and I told this story too about like, it was Mother's Day and I'm like, I'm a mom and I'm a preacher. And, so I'm like, my kids, my family spend a lot of time at church. And it was always really important to me that like my kids were a part of my work. In some ways, not like that I force them to do anything, like I'm like, you will be at church, but it was important to me that they went to Sunday school because I feel like that's, kind of gets on their level. Yeah. It's a little more interactive, all that stuff. But I wanted them to be part of the like church assembly. I wanted them to see and be a part of worship. I didn't want it to be like big church, I don't go to big church kind of a mentality. And even though it's really hard for me to parent from the pulpit, and I can't. I literally just cannot. So my husband, is kind of like the parent in charge whenever I'm up there. And I would get off of the platform and it still happens, but like every week in the beginning, I'd like get off the platform and I would walk back to where my kids had been in like the back of the room. And a lot of times, like, if you worship in the element, it's like, I joke that it's like a refugee camp for the kids. They just
is it the other one summer we had the playground,
oh, gosh,
right?
Yes.
But that was like the table, but it's like we still have that. It's just, there's no table.
There's no table.
It's just up for their own, like they just sit on the floor.
Yeah. And they have their like little activity bags because our children's ministry does a great job. We have volunteers that put those together every week. But they have their activity bags. And so they have like papers and crayons and pipe cleaners. And like, I see this stuff just strewn about the back of the room. And, my son, I could like watch him if I'm back up there preaching. I could like see him just like sprawled out on his back, just like making a snow angel out of crayons.
No, that was Justin.
That was Justin. Yes.
Justin.
And I thought early on to myself, like, is this even worth it to like have them in here? Like, are they getting anything from this? Am I just, they're just bored and I'm just like, forcing them to be in here and all of that. But then like, it did not take long. And I remember very clearly this one particular day that it was Emmy first, and then when Jesse was older, he did the exact same thing. But it was just like, hey, I can say the Lord's Prayer from memory. And I was like, oh, go for it. And they, and she said it, and I was like, wow, did you learn that in Sunday school? And she was like, no, Mom, you say it every week.
Yeah.
And then like literally the exact same thing happened with Jesse when he was around the same age. And they had been in the worship space. Now, like we started saying the Apostles' Creed every week in the element. And now my kids say it. They Jesse the other day was kicking a soccer ball and he was like, crucified, dead, and buried the third day. And he was just like saying it while he's kicking a soccer ball. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he just, it's in their heads.
No, and I saw this with one of Alyssa's kids. I think it was Beckett. He was just sitting there. It didn't look like he was paying attention, and he started singing the Gloria
Patri.
Yeah, Gloria Patri. He was like over exaggerating. Glory be to the Father.
See, but like, and those kinds of things, my kids will sing worship songs just like they're just kind of in their head, and it would be like, oh, we sung that at church this, on Sunday, and I'll like remember that.
No, and they get communion.
And they take communion.
And that's one thing. Those kids are fidgeting around and they're playing, but then the parents will get them. Hey, come on. It's time to get communion.
Well, and
they'll go up there and they'll receive communion.
They receive communion and they hear these words of grace that are spoken to them. And they, and I love too that my daughter, real early on, she was like, how do I get to do what the people do that like pass out the bulletins and the baskets and they serve communion and they wear the name badge? I want to do that. And like the connection team folks welcomed her in to like serve alongside them, even if I wasn't standing there. But it's their kid, like she's my daughter, but like this is our community's kid, and like there's so many and other kids have joined to be a part of that and serve alongside their parents and alongside the other adults because they're seeing adults model this and they're like, I want to do what they're doing, right? And this is like this healthy discipleship, this natural, organic kind of discipleship that it's like, it's not a program. It's just us living out our faith. Yeah. And I think that is exactly what we see in this passage that like, you better believe that those children are going to remember that. Yeah. They're going to remember that moment. They're going to be part of the faith. They're not just the future church. They are the church.
Little Chad fidgeting in the pews. And I mean, like like I may have been definitely in elementary school, first, second grade, third grade, maybe. I don't know. But I do remember this specifically. We had a pastor, an associate pastor who was going to be leaving and transitioning. He was going to go do missionary work up in Alaska. And I remember the whole church gathered and prayed with him. I remember that scene, and I can't tell you I remember the most about so much, but I do remember that happening. So for people who sit there and think, oh, well, children, they don't pay attention, they're like, no, there's little nuggets of stuff.
They are paying attention.
Now, and there are statistics that show that this is what keeps church essential in their lives, that they feel connected to the church, because it just makes common sense too that, if they're only plugged into children's ministry and they're only plugged into student ministry, but then once they graduate, they go to college, well, they graduated from church apparently because they're not part of everything. Why would they want to go to the quote unquote boring service?
Right.
Anyways, and I know this is a challenge for families. Some people may be listening to this going, you don't know my kids. And I get that. I 100%. And I've seen families struggle when we do family worships. I've seen how much of a struggle it is. I don't know if I have the right answer, but it's just, do what you can as often as you can. Try to get them part of the rest of the community. Don't just, nope, they're going to go over there. We just need to entertain them. Find ways. If it's only once a month, if it's only every so now, find ways to do it, but educate them in that.
And also
it's so important
to the rest of the, church community, that those that have kids that are grown or don't have children, like it's important for us to be a welcoming kind of church to children. And that was one thing that it kind of bridged into a larger conversation of the church, that like, because of this kind of mentality that the church has often had of like, well, you guys belong over here. You don't belong in the whole body of the church. That kind of mentality has gone into so many other things. Like, these people aren't allowed to be in church, or this background or lifestyle or what have you, like all of these different types of things that the church has created walls and boundaries to say, you can exist over here, but not with me, not with us. And that is not what the church was created to be. And so it's like, that's what people were arguing with Paul.
Right.
It's like,
exactly.
No. Exactly. So it's like,
you can't have these Gentiles, these uncircumcised people worshiping with us. And Paul's like, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Unity means unity. It means diversity. It just does. Like that, it isn't, and I've said this before, quoting, oh my gosh, I forgot his name, but I didn't make this up. It was from a speech in like 1968 or something like that at the when the United Methodist Church joined the United Brethren.
Oh yeah. When we became the United Methodist.
Yes, when it became the United Methodist Church. But this quote that was like, unity cannot exist without diversity, or else it's just uniformity, right?
Oh yeah.
And that this passage is all about unity, not uniformity, unity.
Yeah. And that's a tough thing. Like a lot of churches and all will say, no, we definitely want everyone to come here, but how much are you willing to actually like adapt? Like how much are you willing to show that you're welcoming? Are you willing to change the music you sing on Sunday mornings? Are you willing to change if someone doesn't come dressed up super nice? Are you willing to, like, there's lots of things like that. Like you need to make sure when you say you want everyone coming to the church, like, are you really meaning that?
It doesn't have to look one way either. Yeah. Like contextually for the church in Tyre, for the church in Katy, Texas, like it can look, it might look a little bit different, but like the question is in the heart, right? Are we being welcoming? Are we like, are we making our, ordering our worship and our lives and our discipleship in such a way that like it is welcoming to all people and the littlest of these people, right? So anyway, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I thought we were going to be done talking earlier, but then you started getting us going on that. So. No, but it is something I'm passionate about, and it's taken me a while to look back at my childhood, realizing that I was in church every Sunday with my dad sat up in the choir, my sister and I were fidgeting around, and when I say fidget, I mean y'all could probably ask my mom like stories about how we were just laying around and she had to try to sit us up and all that. But we did that every week, and we were just, and I think back at like, I remember going up for communion like a lot. I remember all these other things happening. It's just, there's this little thing. So don't dismiss it, and kind of don't, and the easy answer is not, I mean, I guess the easy answer is, well, let's just let students be students and let's just put them in this area. It's like, no, there's so much more that goes into ministry than that. And so, well, all right. Well, let's go pray on the beach.
There you go. Beach trip.
We have one more week of getting your acts together?
Two. We have, two more, because we're going to end on Pentecost.
Oh, yeah. So we're leading up to Pentecost, which is actually the beginning of kind of Acts. But
yes,
anyways,
we're like all out of order. We said in the beginning it was out of order.
Yeah. But let's get to our ministry shout out. And this one's going to be our event that we have coming up this week, this Sunday, actually. And it's Ice Cream for Summer.
Woo!
So what this is on both campuses, Kingsland and West. But after, there's going to be lunch, like hot dogs and things like that. So stay around, get some lunch, just enjoy that. But then also, there's going to be ice cream tasting contest. Kind of like chili cook-off, but with the other end, ice cream.
That's right.
So we have a lot of people signed up. What did we have? 18? Did I hear 18 people at Kingsland campus and 10 at West? I mean, so that's what people coming up with some interesting flavors, like Earl Grey tea.
That's all right.
Or maybe just traditional flavors. It doesn't have to be a whole unique. It's just you made it and you're letting people sample it. And this is a fundraiser as we are going to be raising money to help fight food insecurity in KDISD, kind of all around. We have some different programs that we're supporting within KDISD and with some of the schools that we're partnering with that's helping give people food through the summer and helping families and all that. And so anytime you vote on an ice cream, you get a ticket, and that ticket's worth $1.
That's right.
So I want to vote 20 times, $20, 20 tickets, and I could vote, or I could go $100. I could vote. I could stuff one thing with $100. That's 100 vote for this one ice cream. That's up to you, right?
And all the money, every cent of everything. If you donate, we're gonna have hot dogs to grill out to. We're accepting a love offering. They are free hot dogs. But we'll accept the love offering, but all of the money, even the love offering, everything goes to food insecurity, every cent. So none of this stays in house. Which
some people have just donated, like before all this has happened, they're like, hey, I want to help out with this.
Right. I mean, so
they've already done it. Like
very excited to, and one of the things we've realized is that this is a gap in our community, that like food insecurity over the summer, that like it's not really figured out. There's not like somebody who's like stepped in and fully filled the gap. It's kind of it's difficult to navigate.
It's a complicated, hard thing. Yeah, because
so we want to step in and we want to help bridge that gap, and so that this is cool that we've kind of identified that, and this won't be the only time that we're doing this.
Yeah.
So it'll be really good. And I love too that. Kids, speaking of kids being involved in the whole body of the church, there are several kids' names on the sign up.
The kids were more excited
to make the ice cream.
I'm sure the kids were like signing up, and the parents were like, okay, we'll figure this out.
I know. All right, I was like, I signed up. I was like, I signed up, and my daughter's like, can I sign up? And I was like to do a different ice cream? And she's like, yeah. I was like, well, yes, Justin, you're gonna have to do this one. So it'll be good.
So this is going to be fun. So good time of fellowship, but also a mission behind it. And so, man, I really loved our conversation today. And so, but yeah, we have more conversations to have over the book of Acts. And hey, we have annual conference coming up real soon too. So
that's true.
We need to decide if we're going to try to do our event out there.
I know.
We did last year.
That's right. That was fun.
Did we do that last year? Or was that the year before? I think it was the year before. Anyways.
I don't know. I think it was
went
last
live.
Year.
We were like, quote unquote live. Anyways. Well, we'll find out. All right. Well, we will see you all next week on the Next Week podcast.
See you next time.